Hi there, welcome to Help Solve the Case. If you don't know me, my name's Christine Burke, and I am really grateful to have you here to help solve the cases, to help support the mission. And I am here today to get you some general answers. We've got some channel updates, we've got some DNA answers from some of the cases that we've been following. And I want to talk about a guest that we're going to be having come very soon. I will apologize for this video in advance. It is really early in the morning and I'm hodgepodging it together. So please bear with me, but I feel like all of this information is important. So, first of all, we are going to be having an upcoming guest talk with us, hopefully live, maybe recorded, depending on what we do. It's going to be Joe Mullins, and he is a forensic, I don't even know what his exact title is. He makes the clay molds for our unidentified human remains cases. We do have, there's a short on my channel, I believe it's a short, and he is going to be coming on talking about his cases, and hopefully we can identify some of those. I am very tired. It is very early. I spent yesterday, good news, with several colleagues at a local police department talking about how we can help them with their unsolved sexual assault cases and their unidentified humans and their unsolved cases. And it went really well. We had lab personnel there, crime lab personnel, and we also had a whole host of detectives and supervisors. So very grateful to have that opportunity. And they were listening. They were very excited. And I did ask for a tour of the crime lab. So I'm going to try to get that. It's one of the premier crime labs, one of the major crime labs here in the area, in the Phoenix metro area here in Arizona. And I'm going to do that. And then I can report back to you about new technology, what they're doing, and get more answers. So make sure you post your questions below the video, okay? And excuse me, I think I'm getting sick, y'all. Excuse me, sorry about that. I'm really working on a biological case, doing the forensic genetic genealogy, and I've been spending a lot of time on it, and I haven't been sleeping very much. So, but that's the nature of the business. Grateful that I get the opportunity to do that work. But just to let you know, I apologize about the coughing. Like I said, that we're going to be a little all over the place on this video. I'm also going to, speaking of DNA, I'm going to talk about DNA because I've got some answers for you. I have some answers for you. And I'm going to talk to you about some things that are upcoming and some ways that you can really help and do some really great things. So I'm just checking my list here about what I wanted to talk about. Okay. So what do I want to talk about as? Okay, let me hold on a second. Okay, so after the Tyler Robinson case, I had some questions about some of the DNA, some of the descriptions. We had the ATF person testify on the stand, and we had the FBI person testify on the stand. And yesterday, I was meeting with one of my colleagues who is an expert witness and also a renowned geneticist. And I was asking my questions. And so here are some of the answers to my questions. First of all, I was talking about this person did not see the testimony, but this person did not see what those two agents said. We had one lady from the FBI, one from the ATF. And if you watched that video on the DNA, when I talked about the DNA, as I was going over my notes for the 5 days, I personally had questions because I did not like the fact that they were limited in what they could say and how they could present their results. And I believe I also mentioned that as an expert, we have, at least in my state, some statutory and rules, statutory limitations and some rules about what an expert about um, hampering. Excuse me, sorry guys. Like I said, I think I'm really getting sick. Um, Hampering an expert and trying to influence their opinion, and you just can't do it. Okay, the expert has to be able to do the work the way that they need to do the work and form an independent opinion. All right, and so knowing that, because I do that type of work, I also spoke to my colleague, and I was expressing about how these ones that I guess they're both agents, or they're, I'm not sure if they're sworn or not, the ATF expert and the FBI expert were talking about they could only use language and they were covered by that DOJ policy. Well, we can't say this. Remember the testimony thing. We can't say this and we can't say this and we can only do this. They had to follow their SOP. And I was talking about how it bothered me because they should be able to come to their own conclusion and provide their own results. But of course, so myself and this other expert, we had the discussion about how working for an agency, you have to go by the agency guidelines as opposed to being like myself, an independent expert. And we had a really good discussion, something I think, all of us should talk about. In a live, we can do it in a bullpen session, which I'm going to talk about later too. But, was that witness or those witnesses the most effective when they cannot articulate fully, in my opinion, what they want to say, right? Because I do my work how I do my work, and nobody can influence my work. For instance, the other expert, we talked about it, that which happens. Sometimes you produce work and you produce your opinion, and the attorney or the person that hired you doesn't like your opinion because it doesn't fit the narrative. And many times we hear that experts are hired guns. Well, not this one and not that one, not my colleague. All right. And maintaining that independence is very important to us. And so one of the things in viewing those videos, right, viewing their testimony, the live testimony of these two experts, they are experts in their field. They're technical experts, but are they truly an independent expert? That's kind of what bothered me. So hopefully I'm conveying that properly to you, that was what really bothered me, the fact that they have this guideline of what they can say and what they can't say and how they need to say it. So they really, to me, didn't have an independent opinion. And I thought, is that hampering the prosecution or is that helping the prosecution? What is the defense going to do with that? Right? Because those two witnesses, the defense called, remember in the preliminary hearing, which was surprising. As soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, something's up here. So hopefully, if you're on the defense side, the defense is going to call an independent witness. And is the state going to call an independent witness that can speak more fully? And some of you made comments and talked to me about, hey, if this is what's being applied in this case, is it also being applied, or was it, ouch, I hit the desk, was it being applied in other cases, right? That's a great discussion. Those are things that we should talk about. And I don't know, okay? So that was just one thing that I wanted clarity on, because I don't want to say that they were ineffective. I don't like the hampering. I believe that if you're going to hire somebody for their opinion, so maybe they're not opinion experts, they're just more technical experts, if that makes sense. So yeah, so we talked about that. We did talk about the case, all right, the preliminary hearing, asking about different things, and I think it was very interesting because of what has been put in the public and what we heard at the preliminary hearing. I also asked about the boxcars. Okay. The thing about the boxcars and the statistics. And the genetics expert told me that, and the way I tried to understand it, that the boxcars, the sequencing in the STRs with the number of the repeats, that somebody pulled all these statistics from the population, a set of the population, and they counted it and they looked at it almost like looking at, and I did discuss fingerprints and whorls as an example, almost the fact that somebody did research at some point to find out that, no two fingerprints are the same and that it could be used for identification. So, according to this expert, some scientists did all this research showing with the boxcars these repeats, okay, that there was sufficient uniqueness across a subset of the population that they didn't need to know what was in the boxcar, okay, the ATCG. They only needed to know the number of boxcars. And so, of course, I was asking, well, we have a very huge population. If you're not concerned with what's in the boxcar, how is it going to be unique enough to identify one person versus another? Like, I really wanted to know. In fact, I gave the example of the fingerprint, the whorls on the fingerprint. And this expert assured me that there was enough uniqueness in the population that they would be able to do that without knowing what was in the boxcar, if that makes sense. Because I was like, one's hauling flour, because we're thinking train, right? Boxcar train. One's hauling flour, one's hauling wheat or grain. How doesn't that matter? And they said, no, it doesn't matter. And I was like, okay, you got to give me more here. And so we also talked about that statistical number, the trillion, and that sort of thing. And the best way to describe it, the way that I came up with an analogy to understand it, is that the odds of two people, right? So when we get that octillion number and I don't remember what the other number was. We had octillion, we had greater than 1 trillion or under 1 trillion. I remember 1 trillion. Was it centillion? I don't remember. Huge numbers. And the expert explained to me that it's like a lottery where however many people we have in the world, I don't know, billions of people, what are the odds of two people choosing the same number? Like when we see lottery statistics. And it's not just like the lottery in your state or the Powerball or that sort of thing. It is the population lottery. And that is why the numbers are like that, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. It's not that a random number is going to be generated. It's that me on my chromosome and my DNA, I'm going to have my chosen numbers. I mean, even though we don't choose them, it comes from our parents, but I'm going to have, if we're looking at the lottery analogy, I'm going to have my chosen numbers, my 17 or 21 loci, whatever, those are my numbers. And then the other people are going to have their numbers. All the billions of people in the population, everybody, you all are all going to have your numbers, your chosen numbers. And the odds of that, that's where the odds statement comes from, that we would each pick the same long sequence of numbers. So I don't know if that helps. I felt a little better about it. I didn't have a visual diagram, so I don't have one for you. But that kind of explained it better to me. I also asked about the Q-tips, what I call it Q-tips, and the commingling of the DNA. If you remember, in the preliminary hearing, I think it was the ATF person, I'm not sure, I don't want to misattribute anything, but they talked about the swabbing of the trigger guard, right? That's the piece of metal that goes around the trigger, right? And then you have the trigger, and that they swabbed and they put them together. And right? And so I'm talking to this expert and I'm like, what is up with that? Because I've had it in cases. And then what was our population? They got a mixture of all these folks. And the expert said, no, no, shouldn't be done, right? Because this expert also teaches ethics, right? So we were having a great discussion. I was getting all my questions answered. And I said, is that right? Contaminated. It's cross-contamination. If you had two different Q-tips or swabs, I call them Q-tips because it gives everybody an instant visual. But if you have two Q-tips, why whatever, why would you put them together and commingle the DNA? Because somebody could have just been looking at a rifle or a gun or whatever and just, if you learn, you always keep your finger on the trigger guard, not on the trigger, right? For accident, right? For safety prevention. And then the shooter is going to have their finger on the trigger, potentially, right? In a shooting situation, trigger DNA, you would think, would be more probable, or maybe even to trigger guard DNA. But yeah, so the double Q-tip thing was like, no, they agreed with me that, so we should question the Q-tip commingling. And the expert said to me, why commingle two Q-tips together, right? So, which goes with the permission to consume, which I'm going to talk about, because they're going to use the whole thing. So they're going to, we heard testimony about taking all the top of the Q-tip and putting it together, right? If they're going to commingle it anyway, if they're going to put it together anyway, then why not use the same Q-tip? But I don't like that, okay? So again, I'm going to go into the lab and I'm going to ask the lab people what they do as their standard practice. But we were like in total agreement, the expert and I, about that shouldn't be done. But we did talk about something that I brought up in the past that I have seen in my cases where agencies outsource to a lab, whether law enforcement or otherwise, and they don't realize in their contract, in their purchase order, they only get so many swabs. Okay? And so this could be, the expert said, this could be to conserve resources or to get as much swabbed with limited materials available. For instance, did you ever as a kid have a parent that said, don't waste the paper towels, right? Don't waste the paper towels. And, wiping up a big spill with one and it gets all soggy and then someone's wringing out the paper towel instead of just getting another paper towel and drying it properly. That's what I think of. So, instead of wasting, excuse me, Q-tips that cost money, I don't even know. I hope to God it's not a $10,000 Q-tip. Government purchasing, we don't know, like that wing nut or whatever that was. But there's all types of opportunity here where I think DNA could be getting messed up, or they're making mixtures. They're making multiple contributor mixtures where we don't need it. And I posted, speaking of that, I posted in the YouTube community a video from Thermo Fisher that talks about interpreting mixtures. And it's amazing because I'm going to get to my next point. Because it talked about the fact that it should be easy to interpret a mixture, that it's either too complicated or it's not. So you can either interpret it or you can't. And the expert agreed with me yesterday that it shouldn't be fighting it or stressing over it. Is it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 It's either I can do it or I can't. Okay. So I thought that was very interesting too, because we saw that was it two, was it three? And we saw in the preliminary hearing a lot of fours and fives and whatever. And I suggest you go watch that Thermo Fisher um, training. It talks about when you got 4, 5 and all that. And remember, if you remember what the defense attorney in the Tyler Robinson preliminary hearing said about, he was reading that paper, and I don't remember which one it was, that you're going to think that it's only this many people when in reality, there's going to be more. Okay. So if we're identifying for how many are there? Okay. We also talked about major and minor contributor. I said, what is this about major and minor contributor? Does major mean that they're the last person to touch it, or they touched it more? And this expert said, no, some people shed or transfer more than others. So you can't make the determination just because there's a major and minor contributor. And I said, well, I think the public thinks when we hear this language, that we can only hear this language, this certain language, which again is irritating. I understand it. I don't have to agree with it. That major meant, touched it more or whatever. I said, I really think the public could be misled by that. So I was glad that the defense attorney brought up the question, because that's what I was thinking, right? I'm not a trained biologist, but that's what I was thinking. So I got clarification on that. So yeah. So I think that was very interesting there. Trying to see if I answered all the DNA questions. Swabs, we talked about swabs. And many of you have asked great questions I don't have the answers to. I try to find the answers to it. Like I said, I want to go to the crime lab and ask the questions. So I want you to put the questions so I can do that. And I want to show you another way that you can, well, do a lot of things, but get more access to ask me questions live. So let me show you that. Okay, I'm waiting for the next thing to do its magic. And so in between there, I want to talk to you about how grateful I am to have you all here on this channel. I want to give you the type of experience that you want to have, whether it's short videos, long videos, AI videos, talking live with me, following cases, solving cases, and everything like that. And I'm working on ways to find out how to better do that for you. And so I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for being here. But one of the main mission that I'm here, I've got my human shirt on today, is to help the humans and to get folks identified, whether it's our unknown humans or solving correctly our cold cases, right? Our wrongful convictions, all of that. And it happens through, a majority of the time, forensic genetic genealogy, even though I do have a different thing that I do that I call Y strike, which works with the male DNA and the Y haplogroups. That's a thing that we talked about yesterday. But forensic genetic genealogy for our police agencies is very expensive. And I am not sure if you know how much this costs an agency to do. Outsourcing these cases is pretty much a minimum of around $9,000. The DNA itself costs around $3,000 just to run the test, just to output the DNA, which is, I think, way too high. I have different methods and I can do different things around $600. But I'm not sure that you know that for law enforcement to access GEDmatch and FTDNA, it costs law enforcement, when it doesn't cost you all, it costs law enforcement $1,400 per case. Did you hear that right? So $2,800 just to put the DNA, the genome, the output into the databases that cooperate with law enforcement. So that's $2,800 right there. About $3,000 to run the DNA when you're using these big companies. It adds up very quickly. And then you have to talk about the other things that they do, bioinformatics, whatever, investigation, if there is one. So it can be very expensive. And as I mentioned in my intro video, if you've watched that, maybe you haven't, I've done a lot of things to make this easier. That's why I started my company. I have my enduring service program, and I write the books, and I sell the merchandise. And I've created this platform that I'm going to show you rather than giving money to YouTube or whatever. But I want you to know that and I'm grateful that all of you have subscribed here, and I could implement membership tiers and I could ask for money and beg for money, but I don't believe in that. I believe in giving you value for that. But if everybody that is subscribed to the channel purchased a membership, we could fund 12 cases. Pretty huge, right? And that's not a lot of you. Out of the people that watch the channel, thank you, everybody that has subscribed. And you don't have to purchase anything by any means. I'm just talking about the reality of what these cases cost and how I'm working to fulfill my mission to deliver good things to you, things that are fun to you, and help me deliver to my victims and to law enforcement, okay? So 12 cases. We could fund 12 cases, and that is at the high amount, okay? If we could do, let me just see. I'm just going to use a round number. That can't be right. Okay, hold on. We can fund 32 and a half, doing it the economical way. And that's just with everybody that's subscribed, okay? So let me show you what I've developed. I'm waiting for it to percolate. I'm going to show you what I've developed, and I want to talk about why I've developed it. And I would hope you would consider it. If not, I'm also going to put a link in the description because there is a contest to win $100,000. And just think what we could do with that. We could probably do 50 cases. We could, because that's divided by 2,000. We could do 50 cases if I won the $100,000. Okay, so let me show you what's going on. All right, so this is what I developed. I developed it as an app. It will be coming hopefully to the app store for your phone, but right now it is an online application for us where all the cases reside. It is a membership, and you can choose to join or not join, but we have all the cases in here. They're organized by different type of cases. All the subscription here funds, as I mentioned, through my enduring service program to pay for these cases. We have member-only live calls that will not be events that will not be on the YouTube channel. You got me. Um, we've got ranking here, and I want to talk about this. I'm gonna talk about this right here while I'm thinking about it. So, as I mentioned, we in law enforcement can only get into, let me put myself over here. We can only get into two databases, FTDNA, Family Tree DNA, and GEDmatch. And there is definitely not the population that is in Ancestry.com or MyHeritage.com or 23andMe. But you can help, right? So if you've taken a DNA test in one of those databases or Living DNA or some other database, please consider moving your DNA over to GEDmatch and Family Tree. And here on the website is the instructions for that, okay? So, uh, if nothing, public service announcement, I would love you to do that, okay? Here's examples of the cases, okay, that we have in the community. And within the community, in the case file, I give you the details of the case. It creates a timeline of the case so we can keep track of the case. I put the documents of the case, the pleadings and things that I read, stuff that we find, pictures, videos, so we can go over, like in the Koberger case, and YouTube with the sensitivity about things that we can show and things that we can't show. In my private community, we can do what we want to do. Okay. Videos. You've got the community where you can talk to each other. You can comment on cases right in the case, and it's going to keep a chronology of, it's going to keep a chronology of everything related to that case. So in the YouTube videos, you're commenting over here on this video, and everything is going to be right there. You're going to see when new videos come in specifically about that case. I provide updates on the case and write notes and stuff, because on the YouTube channel, I don't think, even though we have a community and I can write notes, I don't think you guys are all seeing that. And there's an AI assistant to ask questions. Okay. And it's not that expensive. It's only $4.99 a month. It's $49.99 for the year. And it will fund, if everybody that's subscribed, which again, no, you don't have to, but this money minus the Stripe fees comes directly to me so that I can pay for this lab work. I can source this lab work that is less expensive, and I can get appropriate, cost-efficient resources to get this stuff done. And it helps defray my cost to do the videos for you and to do the forensic genetic genealogy work for these agencies. And hopefully you will find some value in here. We also have the store, which is not up yet. And as I mentioned, there's a contest going on because I developed this app, that the app creating thing will pay $100,000 if the app wins. Okay. So if you guys could share that, I'll put the link in the description. That would be great. So I just wanted to show you this. Everything is in the case file. It's really interesting. Let me pause it for a second. Let me see if I can pause it. So mine looks a little different because I have the admin, but you can sort the cases by state. You can sort by A to Z. So we're going to got a lot of cases in here. Here's Tyler Robinson we've been talking about. So when we got in here, it talks about the details. We've got the timeline as things come up. We've got the documents I've been reading. We can put photos. We've got all the videos, right? When I start talking about the cases, and we have the community, you can talk about it, right? We've got detective notes when I talk about things, and we have the AI assistant that can answer your questions on the cases. We've got the calendar here that all the different things that are going on with the cases so we don't miss anything, our live events, the bullpen and everything. And we have the store, which is coming, okay? And you can sort through all the different cases that we have in here. And I load the cases, okay? We got Carmelo Anthony's case. Every case has um things in here, the videos and everything. So you can follow the case and then it shows up in your dashboard. And you can find it at helpsolvethecase.com. Again, everything is still going to be on YouTube. All the videos are going to be on YouTube. I'm publishing everything to YouTube, but I can't talk to you guys one-on-one. And I found it very hard to collate all the different case information and where the documents and the court dates and all that stuff. And like in the Koberger case, we can't talk about sensitive stuff on YouTube. We have to be careful. So I created this, okay? And for a good reason, because I could create YouTube memberships, but YouTube gets that money. I want to take the money and solve the cases. So just consider that. You can also rank as you share and do things. I really want to know. I spent a lot of time doing this. Hopefully, this will be something that is helpful to you, but I will ask you to consider at least coming here to the page and consider moving your DNA. If you have tested at a DNA company, you download your genome and you just upload the zip file. It's very easy, only takes a little bit of time, and it really, 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 really will help us. So I think that's all I have to say for today. We talked about we're going to have our forensic, I don't know, sculptor. I'm not sure what his title is. We talked about the boxcars. We talked about the 2 Q-tips and the contamination. We talked about the experts. We talked about the app. We've got the store. We talked about live calls, and we talked about making the move to move your DNA. So I wanted to update you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Again, in our own community, I can collate the questions because I was just going to say, give me your questions for the forensic artist, and then I'm going to lose them because they're all going to be on random videos. It's very hard to track, and especially if I don't see all your comments. If they're in the community, I will see them in the Help Solve the Case community. So do let me know what you think. And I'm not asking you to sign up. You don't have to pay for anything. Just the fact that you guys helped me, get the channel monetized. We are waiting. They say it's going to take a month. Anything that you do, you just being here and listening to me helps move this forward because you empower me and you motivate me to do more for all of the cases, all of the people, all the victims, whoever they may be. And again, I just thank you for being here. So appreciate your patience. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to get sick. I don't know what's going on. The next few days might be a little crazy. But thank you all for your love and support. And I'm so grateful to have you here. And I just want to be able to have us all work together and give you what you want so that you can get the most out of this, so that we can all do the most for everybody else. So I will see you on the next one.